Okay, so this is a quick little mini lesson where I want to talk with you guys about building sentences, especially when it comes to creating academic writing that you want to flow more smoothly. Sometimes, as writers, we can feel either like we're being too rigid and kind of jerky with our sentences, or a lot of times, a lot of students will tell me, I just feel like I'm repeating myself. I just feel like I'm repeating myself. And while there are times when strategic repetition can help with emphasis, that feeling that you keep saying the same thing or you keep saying it in the same way definitely is an easy fix for how we can play with sentences and change up their construction so that your writing flows more smoothly, even to your own ears when you're reading it back to yourself. So let's get to it. Okay, so first of all, we just have these building blocks in place. I love this quote by Stephen King from his book about writing on writing. And he just says simply, words create sentences, sentences create paragraphs. And then I love this part. Sometimes paragraphs quicken and begin to breathe. And this is what we're going for. We're going to just start stringing words together to make sentences. We're going to put some sentences together to create paragraphs. But what we want is for this feeling of a breathing piece of writing, something that comes to life and is whole. So, of course, this should call you back to one of our earlier grammar minis from a couple weeks ago. But just basically, a sentence is a subject and a verb. That's it. That's all you need. And these examples I totally cribbed from Stephen King's On Writing. He has a whole list of them. Rocks explode. That's a whole sentence. It's a complete sentence. Jane transmits. That's another complete sentence. All of these are complete sentences. Kittens create. Mountains float. Sunlight sparkles. She succeeds. Full sentences. And the first thing that we want to understand about our writing is that simple sentences are not bad. If we use them strategically, they can actually add rhythm to our writing. But we don't only want to use simple sentences, right? We're not writing a McGuffey reader. We're not trying to keep it as simple as possible. We're writing for seasoned scholars and fellow researchers. We want to create sentences that are translatable at a higher level. So this is where we use compound sentences, and we talked about those in that grammar mini about sentence structures. This really helps with academic sound in your writing. It makes things sound smooth to use compound and complex sentences. This means using dependent clauses, so starting with a phrase or ending with a phrase that can't stand on its own. While many researchers agree that's a dependent clause, and then you'd need commas to set that off and integrate it with this full sentence. Another thing to use to create your compound sentence is called a qualifier. Qualifiers are hugely important in academic writing. They include things like saying it may demonstrate, or the majority of respondents agree, which seems to prove. All these words I'm emphasizing with my voice are qualifiers, so they're things that we say to help us hedge our arguments in the possibility that other researchers might find out more and might even be able to disagree with us. Using qualifiers, though it sounds counterintuitive, actually strengthens your academic argument. So here are some examples, some templates for explaining quotes, which is something that you're going to be doing in your response because you are explaining your reasons for agreeing or disagreeing or both with some of the elements of the text we're studying. So you could start off with basically. That's a really interesting transition where you're moving from perhaps a paraphrase or a quote into your explanation of that quote. And the X here is standing in for the name, usually the last name of the author of the text we're talking about. In other words, that's a good dependent clause that you can use to translate a paraphrase or a quote into your own words. Now we can go to this third one. In making this statement, X urges us to. This is kind of building off of a quote or a paraphrase in order to be able to say something about it. X's point, there's a little typo there. There should be a little S right after this apostrophe. I apologize. You could just sort of say that the author's point is that blank, or the essence of the argument is that. These are all little sentence stems that you could use, plan them in your paper, and see what grows off of them. Of course, here's my works cited. I used these templates from this awesome book, They Say, I Say. I hope that this helps you as you are working on drafting your response papers.